Welcome everybody to the Scale Up Show. This is your host Ryan Staley, and I have a very special guest with me today. I have Yaniv Makover, the co-founder and CEO of Anyword, which is a data-driven generative AI marketing tool. It's raised a total of 30 million in funding, has been used by marketers, brands like TED, Baker, Condé Nast, Equinox, and many, many others. Yaniv, happy to have you on the show. Welcome, man.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. As you know, AI is kind of a hot topic right now, but love that you started working on this a long time ago. And, it's going to be really interesting to hear your perspective on the evolution, specifically in terms of language and content and writing. Before we get into that, I want to do a real quick revenue rundown. So where are you guys at in terms of your stages of the journey for your ARR?
So we kind of so it's a complicated story because Anyword kind of spun out of another company called KeeWee, and we're still in the same umbrella. So we're generally approaching the 10 million ARR high level. I won't get to exact numbers.
That's fine. And then what's your primary go-to-market strategy for revenue growth?
So we do a lot of kind of like a PLG approach. We get a lot of people to do our trials and we use the free product, and our sweet spot is basically mid-market marketing teams, B2B and B2C, and then we get a lot of SMBs as well. So we acquire users through ads, organic, search, SEO, and the usual stuff.
Excellent. And so with what do you consider mid-market? I always like to ask people that because there's like about 50 definitions for mid-market. So what do you
That's a great question.
That?
So it was just a board meeting last week. I was like, okay, what is it? So it's like it's more defined. It's defined more of the marketing team, and is it a data-driven marketing team? So are they using data to qualify their leads? Do they have some sort of approach that is more data-driven? And then usually that seems to be having a paid ads budget, and so there's a bunch of kind of like criterias that we have, but you're right, it's subjective, and everybody kind of seems mid-market something else. Like okay. SMB in the US is different than SMB in other places.
Exactly. Okay, so that's good. What's your team size?
So all in all, we're about 65.
Okay, excellent. And then can you walk us through your solution in a verbal paragraph or less?
Anyword's generative AI for performance writing. Our goal is to help you get 20 to 30% lift for everything you're writing. Even if you're an expert writer, you have institutional knowledge, you have things you know that worked or didn't work. LMs or generative AI generally don't know your company. They don't know your brand. They haven't seen your past A/B testing. They don't know your brand voice. Anyword's there to help you do that and leverage your institutional knowledge, and also give you kind of like the benefit of millions of A/B tests that I've done in the past. And then you can now use generative AI to create as much content as you want. Might as well create the content that works.
And what do you use to feed the LLM on that?
So we've collected kind of very proprietary data over 8 years of A/B testing different copy on different subjects and a variety of topics. And so the idea is to guess how well copy will do, or predict basically, for a specific audience, for a specific channel, and a business goal. So if you're selling, diapers to parents, would you want to use fear of missing out versus other kind of like approaches and tactics? And some marketers kind of like tend to know, like in their niche as copywriters or content marketers, like know what works, but they have like a lot of biases. And I think one of the interesting parts about large language models is that people know that they can write well, but they also understand text really well. So if you were training a model 5 years ago to guess what copy works better, and you gave it a bunch of data, it would say, well, this one has an emoji and this one has a exclamation mark. It wouldn't learn a lot or the deep context, but now you have a very large language model, so you can train it to actually understand why something worked, why something didn't work. And so I think for us, it's always been the very cool part of it. When I was like pitching investors 5 years ago, and saying, hey, in 5 years, or I didn't know when, but AI is going to write most of what you read, or people are going to use AI to write. You're crazy. And I was like, no, this thing does math now. it was back early 2017, 18. You could have a large language model and say 2 plus 2, and it says equals 4. 4 plus 4 equals 15. And it was like, it would get that wrong, but generally you'd have to believe. And then the pitch was to investors, look, now that everybody can create 5,000 tweets at a click of a button, which one are you going to use? And that's really the real problem. The real bottleneck now is basically understanding you can't A/B test 5,000 tweets. It's too expensive, cost effective.
Yeah,
and that's kind of been our whole pitch.
Well, I love that, and it's so funny because I literally just responded. Jason Lumpkin and Saster was writing about this. He was talking about quality more as a byproduct of customer support. He's like, "You want to stick out versus everyone offer 24/7 support, right?" He was like, "Nobody does it. People appreciate it." And that's one of the things I've seen too is like it's so easy now to spin up a product like a SaaS product. It's so easy to create content, but when there's a massive amount of quantity, just like we're seeing with all the streaming services. I mean, how many streaming services are there now? What, like, it seems like an infinite amount, right? But basically, like, now it all comes down to quality. So, like, I guess, like, from your perspective, how do you engineer that quality in your product?
So I think, first of all, you have to understand the paradigm of like how people use LLMs in their writing. And,
Okay.
and for us, it's like there's like basically two ways. One, I have a like general idea of what I want to get done or get written, and then I really appreciate a bunch of ideas from a very large language model, and then those ideas are like 90% fleshed out. And so that's like basically one use case. And then the second one is I know what I want to say. I know what who I want to say it to. I just need to refine it. And then so we infuse data into creating custom models, which basically are our own models to generate higher performing copy. And we also do in both use cases, and we also do like post processing. So let's say we generated 500 copy variations, and like, oh, let's throw away these 400 and just show these last 10 and rank them and sort them and give that as like as some sort of data point to the marketer. Is in our perspective, there's no objectively better copy. We're in the creative business. 5 people will have 5 different opinions about like a creative copy or anything like that. And so you want to say, hey, well, I don't know which one is better, but this one is going to get more engagement on Facebook or on LinkedIn from this audience. And so we have that data injected into generating the copy. Also, we will tell you what are like the best talking points. So when anyone onboards a customer, we ingest all your marketing channels, your social, your ads, your LinkedIn, and then we'll kind of derive that, or we'll get to some information about, okay, this worked for you, these talking points work for you, stuff that an off-the-shelf language model would not know, something like ChatGPT, or and then that goes into ranking and sorting your outputs, and also into the generation themselves. So use these 2 talking points, you're just going to do better. These benefits work better for your product than these other benefits. They all sound good, but one is going to work better than the other.
Okay, so and I love that. So to get more specific though, so like let's say I have, because I write on LinkedIn a lot, right? And I was telling you about this where I post daily on it. And I've had a couple posts, and I looked at this recently over the last 90 days that have done over 300,000 views on a post, right? So with your model, I could basically inject that information or that content into there, and then the model would identify like, hey, this is a good pattern because of the virality of it, right? And then it'll help you create additional content like that or different versions of it that are likely to be in that same area. Is that correct?
Yes. We look at it from like a bunch of different dimensions. First of all, your formula. There's different formulas for social posts. Like list full of emojis, or I'm going to start with some sort of teaser. I'm going to do some clickbait you would never believe, or something like that. And then there's no one size fits all in formulas. Like you need different formulas for different messages. And then there's tone of voice, which is like the most ambiguous thing in copywriting, but really you want to get that right, and you need different tones for different audiences, and you want to be on your brand. And then there's like talking points. Okay, so some things are more interesting than others, right? So for instance, Anyword wants to market it Anyword to marketers. Saving you time could be a talking point, and running 10x faster, improving your ads copy, and then just like a bunch of benefits and features. There are just things that work better and can easily be injected into like today's AI, right? So just use this word 500 times and you'll just get better. So that's how we see all these things can like go into your eventually how much reach you're going to get, how much engagement.
Okay. Love that, man. I think it's good. Yeah, I mean, the situations I'm talking about are like the carousel models. So say we're talking about carousels. Is that harder for your model to digest or no? Because it's like almost like a PDF or a slideshow.
Right. The carousel has like usually like one primary text and these other secondary text. They're all like in the format that you can ingest. And then when you collect your feedback, your data, your metrics about how well it worked, you'll get it per copy. You'll try to, at least for Trump's channels. And so you can kind of like understand how it worked, which one worked better. And then use that with generating new content.
Excellent. And then does that help with like repurposing across different social channels then? Like the same content, but across different channels? Like, okay, this did well on YouTube. I want to repurpose it on Twitter and LinkedIn. And then it helps with the contextualizing of that platform.
Yes, each one has its own, obviously has its own format, character limit, and different things work on different channels. So we have different prediction models for each channel. So basically, if you take like some posts that work for you on one channel and repurpose it for another, you're basically rewriting it and improving its score for that other one. Some capital letters are better and others aren't, and emojis work in some way. So when people ask me, so what do you know about what actually works? And I actually don't, right? Because it's a very large language model, and I can give you like my tips, but I don't. Like I can't really say. I can say that the model is very accurate. So it's like today we're at 82% accuracy. Basically, if you give the model two texts and you know which one works better, it will guess right 82% of the time, where 50% is random, and we've tested it a lot, and then so we're pretty confident, and it gets better the more data we train it on.
How long do you think it'd take until you get to like 99%?
I don't think if we get to 98%. There's a lot of noise in copy, so you have to have really good A/B testing data. Like you have to compare it on the same audience, same goal, same product, same time, and then you have to clean out all the noise. And copy doesn't explain performance. Usually, copy will be next to some image or next to some whatever the format is. So it's not going to get much higher. And also, when you have like some metrics that says 82%. There's not like one size fits all. Like you really want to explain when it works better, and sometimes it doesn't work as well, right? So it can you can differentiate between two examples in the women's fashion space, but it doesn't do well in tech. So it's a number, but it doesn't. So if we get better, we actually get better across different verticals and different use cases.
Gotcha. Sorry about all these questions. I'm nerding out on content with you, which is
no, it's like this is what I do.
It's cool. I think it's fascinating. So obviously, you said you started 7 years ago, right? You got 7 years of data. What happens to the industry, right, when your product has a boom around it, like ChatGPT for something like yours? So yours is related, right? But like, and a lot of people are probably just like, oh, why don't I just use ChatGPT instead, right, of using your product? I'm sure that probably comes up. Like, what happens to your industry when that happens and completely changes the game, kind of at the rate that it happened since November of last year?
So I can tell you what happened and what we were feeling while it happened. So basically, so if you're an entrepreneur for kind of like a long time, you're like kind of used to a roller coaster. Like we had our bank account at SVB, so like we're like, and I got a call at Saturday, like, okay, that's like the funds are gone, and I was like, I just went to sleep. It's like, there's nothing I can do with this. So like, it was like half of funds, and wasn't all of it, like half. I was like, okay, I can deal with half. It's fine. Like as long as I have half, and like I've been in worse positions. We had COVID, and we had like these customers stopping payments. So you have to get like the mindset is like, okay, like this is a roller coaster. Just get used to it. And I think as a team, I think we're pretty good at that. So ChatGPT launched November 30th, kind of like early December. And we saw like a crazy boost in our numbers, like cost per lead going down, much more traffic, search traffic was going, like people were looking for these solutions. And we kind of like saw that for like 3 months. And then, but we, as soon as we saw, like, as soon as my mom was calling me, oh, what's this thing called ChatGPT? And I was like, okay, this is different. And we've been working in this space for 5 years. We've seen all the growth of large language models. This actually did not happen overnight like everybody thinks it did. And things are moving so fast. They haven't moved that fast. But the application ChatGPT moved really fast. But at that point, we were like, okay, we have to revisit our basic assumptions. And the way we had all hands and the way we described it to the team is like, everything that people can do in one of these assistants, they'll do there. Kind of like if you're searching for something, you'll do it in Google search or some search engine, unless you really are, let's say you're looking for freelancers, you're going to go to some specialized freelancer website, but the bar is way higher for you to go there because it's very easy to use the chat and it's everywhere. So that changed the game for us. So even all of our numbers, our metrics, like we were like 100% growth over month. We didn't buy into that hype, and we started kind of really understanding or trying to understand how we can position ourselves differently, and the product kind of like trying to split the prediction capabilities and the on-brand capabilities and the from the generation and the packaging and marketing, everything. And it's actually worked really well for us because when we go to market today, we don't have to explain. You go to market team, this thing's not going to write really well. And so today we basically have a starting point where use ChatGPT. Yeah, well, does it write well? No, it's not really on brand, and it's it doesn't really perform, but it gets me a bunch of good ideas. So, and especially expert marketers or people that know their stuff and enterprise kind of teams or mid-market, then it's much easier to say, okay, these are your problems, and we've been working on this for 5 years. Like this is a very mature solution to the problems you're having.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And how did you build the mental muscle though? Because you just shrugged it off, right? So how did you build the mental muscle to deal with the roller coaster of a startup?
I think most people have that. Like if you're in this space or you do this for a while, you've had some bad news. You've had an investor leave or an employee or a customer, and you take it really badly at first. You're about to close a round, doesn't close. That's pretty standard. Actually, when I hear other entrepreneurs and they're like early on and they tell me like their stories, and they're like really like, oh, it's like such a dramatic story, and I went to this investor and I almost had it, and they said no or something like that. And I was like, man, that's breakfast. Like, yeah, like that's like move on, and that happens all the time, and that's just like so I feel like there's no way around it. You just develop that scar tissue, and then like now I literally remember the SVB thing. It was like, that's fine.
Well, I remember that too, man. Like, I mean, it's good that you the ability to shrug
No,
it off.
if we had all our funds there, it would be a different thing. We had just had half, and I was like, okay, I can deal with half, and there's nothing I can do with this. So, eventually, everything turned out well, and right there was like we didn't lose our funds, but I think if we had all of it, I would be in a different mode.
Well, so let me ask you this: how did you? One of the other things that was really interesting, based on the research I had, is that you became on the New York Times as an investor, right? On the board as an investor. So how did that happen? That's like very interesting to me on how that kind of took place. What was the story behind it, and how did that happen?
So first of all, KeeWee was our kind of like our first company. We founded it in 2014. We launched, and the vision for KeeWee and Anyword is a spin-off out of KeeWee. So the KeeWee is a SaaS platform for audience development for media companies: New York Times, CNN, NBC, National Geographic, a lot of the top U.S. media companies, also Telegraph, The Guardian, use KeeWee. The vision behind KeeWee was like, writing hasn't changed for 200 years, give or take a typewriter, but reading has changed. So when you read an article today, you're gonna find it in some feed, and that feed knows who you are. So Facebook knows who you are, and LinkedIn knows who you are. But you're reading something that was written for everybody. So that's like a problem that that's the vision. Like, we can solve this problem. So KeeWee was basically solving. Technology wasn't there to rewrite articles, but so we were like, the KeeWee platform was basically, let's scan the article you wrote, look at the words, and then find the best target audiences in these platforms. So if you're like, for instance, an article about people migrating from Brooklyn to Manhattan, let's target people who like Game of Thrones, live in New York. And that was basically the basic technology behind KeeWee. And then it was around the time where publishers had to pay social networks or started paying social networks for distribution. And that just fell into the lap. So they saw performance gains. And so the biggest publisher is the New York Times. And I basically cold emailed like this guy, LinkedIn, whatever, 50 times, didn't answer me. And eventually I got somebody that knew him. He was on the marketing team of the New York Times. And then he took the meeting. He did a $5,000 POC, which is nothing for them. Had really good results. They became a really good customer of ours. Then they have an investment team, so they also invested. I don't know, a few years later, he helped me pick my wedding ring for my wife.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He doesn't know that I cold emailed him 50 times. He forgot, I think, or maybe. Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
So then
he's a good friend.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they invested in you, not vice versa.
Yeah. They invested in KeeWee early on.
Okay, gotcha. Well, so let me ask you this. Now that you said you've been growing 100% month over month growth, right? Is that still continued now?
No, that's a lot. 100% is a lot. No, we're growing fast, but not that fast.
Well, I thought you said month over month, like not entire, but 100% month over month growth. Didn't you say that earlier, or did I misunderstand you?
No. That's crazy exponential what you're saying. We're already at scaled ARR. Like that's not.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
What
was the growth metric you mentioned? Yeah.
We're growing fast, but not that fast.
Well, okay. I thought you said something once ChatGPT hit. You grew.
Oh, yeah. The first 3 months on all our CAC basically kind of decreased by 100% or by.
Okay.
Like really, and our organic metrics grew really fast, but that was like for a 3-month period, and then
okay. I misunderstood you. So,
yeah, right.
Well, let me ask you this then. Like, what's your single biggest challenge growing right now that you're seeing?
I think we have the regular startup stuff, like, where product market fit is not a definitive thing. You just have to keep working on it. There's so many opportunities in the market. Just the technology is there, so you can do so many things. Like, everybody's looking at it, and we've been thinking about where value accrues, how to build a company with a moat for 5 years, right? So, and now that's happening, you still have to adapt and move quickly. So I think that's a general problem for a startup, and in a space that's moving really fast, it's even more acute. Like, you have to adapt really well, and also the company building, the team building gets like hard because you need to move fast and adapt. And I think that's for me, I'm looking at, okay, how does next year look like? How does the team look like? What are we actually gonna where are we going to place our chips, and where we're going to say that's not for us. We're refining our ICPs all the time, and like who we're targeting and who we're not, and regular stuff.
Is your motion completely PLG, or do you have like an outbound motion as well, or leveraging enterprise on top of it?
It's 95% PLG. Like, we all get some introductions from people, but we now have. That's the thing we're working on. We get a lot of product qualified leads, a lot of really good ones, and we're not really good at sorting them out and the whole I would say onboarding process. So we're still figuring that out.
Okay, gotcha. Well, let's flip it on the other side of it. What would you say is like your single best growth strategy that you've seen work the best to grow your organization?
I wasn't that familiar with all the whole PLG strategy. Like people would run ads at scale, get leads, and then get enterprise deals or mid-market deals. I didn't see that happen a lot next to me, and I didn't even witness it close hand. And it really works. So if you can like just if you have a big market like I think our market's pretty big, and you can scale your acquisition, your paid acquisition, and you can make your metrics work, that's great. That's like a really good place to be. It's not to say that we don't do other things in our marketing, but that's like a really big part. Our paid acquisition, it's a really big part of our marketing strategy.
Well, that's interesting that you say that because, like, with your solution, what platforms do you see them being most effective on? Because I would think maybe. Well, I'm going to shut up and just wait for you to answer it because you might surprise me on that. I'm curious on what platforms that works the best on.
Really, that's okay. Like everybody uses search, social, like Meta and LinkedIn, right? That's like where we have some TikTok stuff, and but not like we're not that evolved that we're like trying new and different things. It's like bread and butter stuff. And our
Yeah,
and I can say like, look, our cost per lead is just decreasing all the time
really.
since we launched. It keeps on decreasing over and over because we're just more way more organic traffic, people looking for
Uh,
marketing solutions. We're in that space where like there's like enterprise companies are looking to adapt solutions. SMBs like it's a unique place, I think, or a unique
well,
market.
yeah. I mean, that's why I was curious because I know you deal with a lot of B2B, so that's why I was wondering. Like, I'm kind of surprised you said Meta on that. But did
Attribution
you
is
hear?
hard there. Attribution and tracking is hard to do, like accurate one, but at least, but like we can't turn it off. It's
It's still that
it's
good. And then, are
it's
you when
sticky.
you're saying organic is a lot through just like SEO or social as
Yeah,
well?
like, we get a quarter of our traffic through 30% through SEO.
Oh wow. Do you think that because of the large language models as the way they're kind of getting constructed, do you think that's going to affect SEO at all?
Oh yeah, you mean the fact that there are going to be less searches? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think not in the niche industries or categories. So if you're looking for some like general question and an LLM can actually give you an answer, so you're going to do way less searches to come to to a conclusion. I think I think there's different types of SEO. Like if you have really good thought leadership content, um, it in your space, it's going to outperform anything an LLM can say. Like the way at least this is my humble opinion, right? So um, I've written a lot of articles with AI, and it's like a very competent sidekick that's not an expert in any space. And but if you really want and there are a lot of tactics that it knows that you probably don't about how, like especially if it knows it has the Anyword data, so it can create a better headline than you can and be more engaging or stuff like that. But if you have like an interesting position about something or some interesting data point, um, you're not going to get that answer from an LLM.
Yeah.
However, I do think plagiarism is going to be a huge problem because even if you have that great idea and you've written really well, for someone to go and basically crop your data and your idea and rewrite it in a million ways is very easy now.
Yeah, I can see that being a big problem as well. So, unfortunately, we're just up on time. This has been great, though. But before we go, I'd love to hear just like where do you see the future of generative AI is going over the next 12 months?
Wow, this is way over my pay grade. I can tell you where we're going. Performance writing. I think people will stop guessing about what works for whom. They'll have like a clear north star about what actually
Really?
should work. And I think you're still going to be like the creative, like the marketer is still creative. But you'll have like a calculator that basically tells you these 50 directions are great or are good and these aren't, and you should definitely use these words and this messaging strategy for this audience. generally generative AI, I think I'm very excited about the opportunities. I think that industries are going to get created, industries are going to be disrupted. I think it's an exciting time.
Well, what do you? Yeah, I mean, what do you think about like the industry? Like, what kind of industries do you think are going to be created? I'd be curious on that. Just your take.
You know that like when because I've been working on NLP like for a long time, and I
Yeah.
was super excited with large languages before, like even BERT and the 2017 models, and now I feel like people are more excited than me. It's like they're and I think um, the way I see the opportunity. So anything with data that has to be explained. So there's so many analytics companies or like that really hard. Nothing is really actionable, right? So it's really hard to turn data and insights into actual stuff you should be doing in any space, like medical spaces, marketing. And I think like Anyword turns data into like actual insights. Okay, now I can turn this into like performing copy. I think you can do that with a lot of verticals. And I think when you start doing that, the whole product is different than any incumbent out there. The whole user experience is different. So there's an opportunity to actually create a category from scratch, right? Based on the idea that you can create some actionable insights for almost any data set in any field, which I think is super cool.
Love that. All right. Well, Yaniv, it was great having you on the show. Where can people find you? Where can they find more about KeeWee or anywhere?
So anywhere.com. And if you're a media company, it's KeeWee, KEYWE.co. I'm at Yaniv at anyword.com. So feel free to reach out to me.
And it's YANIV. Just so
YANIV.
you know.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I thought everybody knew. YANIV. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, man, just so people
No,
don't
that's okay.
misspell it. So,
That's
well,
okay.
Yaniv, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Really love just kind of hearing your thoughts, especially because you're a grizzled veteran in the NLP space. So, it was awesome just hearing your perspective, where you think it's going, what's happening. So, thanks for being on the show, man.
Thank you for having me. I really had fun.
All right, thanks, man. We will see you all on the next episode.